Curious to know, I haven't talked to many emerging founders that have come in, started their company, and there's like three co-founders basically that have come into starting a brand. How did you guys navigate that to make sure that you guys weren't kind of stepping on each other? And how did you make that all work?
Well, we all are so different in our background. So, as Chaz mentioned, he's marketing and advertising. He's the brand genius. He came up with our color Pantones and our brand feel, our look, our vibe. The lounges don't feel medical at all. I'm sitting here in our private room at one, and you can see this big, beautiful mural behind me. That's all Chaz. I don't have that creativity. But I come from a sales background, so I've got the business strategy side. That's where my head lies, is going that direction. And of course, Dr. Ben, being medical, he's the one providing oversight. He creates our SOPs. So we all collaborate together on certain things, but we really have such different backgrounds that our strengths shine in different areas.
And how did you cross paths with Dr. Ben?
Actually, it was Tinder.
Okay.
So we had a backer in the beginning. She was kind of working behind the scenes, and she went on a Tinder date with him, and she's like, "Hey, I think I found your medical director." So
Wow, you see, it's
we all went on a date.
not just LinkedIn then.
Well, take your pick.
Well, and the even
my-
better part was that we found out on that first dinner date that we were all huge mountain bikers. Dr. Wilkes actually used to teach downhill mountain biking in Bolivia for a summer, which is awesome. So yeah, like we became friends through the business, which is always good.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Tell me about, what do you think makes your business now today unique and scalable versus some others that are in the industry? Because you're not alone anymore.
So I think what makes us unique is, we mentioned the ER protocols. I think, having those standards is really important. All our staff are licensed ER professionals, and that's a brand standard that we hold that some of our competitors don't hold. And I think the brand feel, the look, the vibe that Chaz has created is unique as well. As I mentioned, you come in here, you're not going to feel like you're in a medical office. You're not going into an exam room or a tiny little place. You're going to sit in a nature-inspired, Colorado-inspired lounge that is inspirational. And I think the third pillar is the suite of services that we can offer. So in addition to the IV therapy, the hormone health, the peptides, the electrolyte line, the supplement line that we have, all of these give people myriad reasons to come in, and not just one specific thing.
Yeah. I would say from a brand perspective too, with a name like Onus, we want you to come in and make one healthy choice, because the idea is that, like, if you woke up this morning and you went for a run, you're probably not chowing down on chocolate cake after that. You're probably going to have a good breakfast. And the hope is that by making one good decision, that's going to compound to the next one. So ultimately, where we stand out is our people, and our mission is really to help you make one healthy choice so that your next one, and then your next day, and then your next month all starts to get better.
Atomic Habits, baby, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great book. All right, Kristy, give me some dirt here. Entrepreneurship is not easy, we know, right? So starting out, was there a challenge, or maybe if you can go back in time and say, man, I would have done this a little bit differently?
I think the biggest challenge is that Chaz and I are married. So in addition to having our first baby, this business, we now have a child together.
Congrats.
Thank you. And I think that the biggest challenge in the beginning was setting boundaries. It's easy to work late into the night and start early in the morning, and then all of a sudden your relationship can become all about work and the business.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we have a really good system now of checking in. And so if it's dinner time, or we're preparing dinner, it's later in the day, we'll say to each other, "Hey, are you okay to talk business right now, or are we done for the day?" And I think that setting that question on the table has really helped us, because we still have many other activities like snowboarding and mountain biking and our child and friends that we can prioritize. And it's not just all about the business. But in the early years, that was a really tough lesson to learn.
Kristy, that is
I think
great.
we almost broke up a couple of times.
Kristy, that is great advice. Chaz, what do you got to add to that?
Gosh. Yeah. I mean, that's just like one of the perfect things to talk about with any franchisee is, like, I guess, expectations. I didn't know what to expect. I'd never been in business before, but frankly, I'm glad I'm in business. So yeah, I'd have to think on that, but yeah, I agree with you, Kristy. Setting boundaries and knowing, when it's time to not be at work. Actually, yeah, that's a good one. Get outside. Like, you're familiar with I-9, I'm sure. Like, physical activity is huge. And I've met a lot of entrepreneurs, and not some entrepreneurs don't take very good care of themselves. When we
Right.
I think around year 2 or year 3, Kristy got me some sessions with a personal trainer. And even if you're just taking an hour for yourself, like I'm still training with this guy. So it's been 5 years. And yeah, it's your hour of peace. And sometimes that's exactly what you need. So taking care of yourself and taking care of your marriage and your relationships is absolutely critical.
That is great advice. And I really hope as you develop this franchise and build this into a nationwide brand, I really hope that you two take what you've done together and share this with your franchise owners, believe it or not, as part of training.
Yeah.
I'm a huge believer. My wife and I have been married for 30 years. And I'd say one of the secrets to our success has been she's always been super supportive of me, and we could always talk about things in the business, but we also had boundaries to know, what time I was coming home, especially when the kids were real little and everything. And after the kids went to bed, it was, I reopened the laptop again, and, we had rules, and believe it or not, it really helped. But more so, entrepreneurship is so lonely. And you're probably going to find that a lot of your franchise owners, it's going to be their first time owning a business, and they don't know the rules, and they're going to have these boundaries that are going to be crossed. But believe it or not, you can, within the confines of your organization and franchise training, you could do some marital counseling, believe it or not, that's going to, believe it or not, really help them, because you want your entrepreneur franchisees to be super successful. You want them to be around a long time. You want them to have this great longevity and buy and open multiple locations probably. Yeah. So I kid you not, I can't overstate this. What you've done is really something special, and I hope you make that as part of your branding.
I love that.
That's great advice, Frank. I'm going to write that down as soon as we're done. I love that.
Well, it's a hot button for me and my wife, because it made us work, and it was part of the things that I do with my franchisees to talk about it, but I don't think we did it enough.
Yeah.
So I encourage you guys. Okay, so let's talk franchising now. First of all, you've got 6 company-owned locations, which is amazing. They're all in Colorado, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. Yep.
And you've just opening your very first franchise location in Fort Collins. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, big moment.
When did you decide to franchise, and what made you guys decide franchising was going to be the way of expansion for you all?
Want me to take this one, or do you got it?
Yeah, go for it, Chaz.
Chaz is going for it.
I mean, for me personally, I'm a big fan of Howard Schultz and how he grew Starbucks. And so for a long time, we were trying to find kind of his method, because he doesn't franchise. He's actually very anti-franchise. But in trying to emulate his style of, fundraising and growth, we were just meeting some real bulldogs, some people with money who wanted to run the show. And that was getting tough. And it was like, gosh, we ever going to get some wind under these wings, And when we started to open our eyes a little bit to what franchising could be, it wasn't necessarily, there's always that lack of control that's a little bit intimidating. But what we were actually gaining was the chance to meet people who really want your brand to grow because they love the brand. And that, to me personally, was like a light bulb moment. I was like, wait a minute, I don't have to convince somebody. They've already been a customer and they want to grow this. Like that, they already get it. That alone was like, okay, we should give this a second shot.
Wow. Kristy, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would add to that one of the pillars of our business is connecting to the community and being an important part of the community, supporting local schools, being at events, just being active and getting the word out there. And I guess another light bulb moment is that we realize we can only do that so far. We live in the Denver metro area. Where can we authentically connect to a community? And that might be as far south as Castle Rock or as far north as Boulder. But beyond that, we're kind of losing that authentic connection to a community, and better to find someone who shares our values, shares our mission, that wants to be an important part of their business community, connect to other businesses. So like, for example, up in Fort Collins, being someone that grew up there and is connected and wants to be a part of that business or bring the business out to the community was an important way for us to spread the word.
And how did you find your first franchise owner?
He was a customer since 2016, a year after we opened.
Go figure. Yeah, more and more you find when you're starting out, most of your franchise owners are going to be clients, right? You're not going to, it's so hard for you to kind of for people to sift through 4,000 franchise opportunities, on entrepreneur.com or one of these other web portals, or whether you're going through a broker group, but there's nothing better than a referral. And that's going to be probably, a good chunk of your first dozen franchise owners is you're probably going to find, which again, there's nobody better than that.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fumey, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.